Stephanie here, and today we're going to be doing a yoga practice for our hip flexors. So this is going to be a really great yoga practice for anyone who spends a lot of their day sitting down, maybe behind a desk, or for my runner friends out there, this is a good one for you. Before we get started though, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like this yoga practice. It really does help me out. So please, 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 if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. For our practice today, I've got a set of blocks. They are optional. So if you don't have blocks, don't stress out about it. You can always use maybe a big sturdy book or two to help bring the floor a little bit closer to you today for this yoga practice. Are you ready? Let's get started. We are going to start today on our backs for this yoga practice. So let's come onto our backs, lengthening out through the spine. So I want you to get that nice long spinal alignment. Let your shoulder blades release underneath the body. Reach the fingertips down, closing your eyes. And we'll begin our practice by just gently focusing in on our breath. Noticing the big inhalations and exhalations today. Finding the rhythm of your breath, connecting yourself into the present moment. So from here, we're going to begin just by adding a little bit of movement into that breath. So can we connect into the core, keeping the back of the rib cage down? We're just going to inhale. Reach the arms overhead, core engaging. And then we're going to exhale, press the arms back down. So as we're bringing the arms overhead, we want to really resist the urge to arch the back and like bubble the low part of the spine off of the mat. We're just starting to integrate movement into the breath here. Waken things up a little bit. So if you're comfortable here, feel free to stay with just this. Or if you like, we're going to inhale, reach the arms over the head. Then we're going to exhale. Let's flex at that hip, hug the right knee in. Inhale, strength of the core, releases the foot down as the arms reach. Then we'll exhale, take that left knee in towards the chest. So we're just starting to wake up a little bit of range of motion into that hip joint today. So remember, this one is all about that hip flexor, easing into that psoas. So we're just going to start to work into that hip, linking our movement with our breath today. Also starting to wake up those core muscles just a little bit. Now, if this is where you're happy, feel free to stay with this. Or this time, we're going to gently return the foot to the floor. Lift through your hips. Oh, nice stretch through the front of the body. Then we'll exhale, release the hips. Hug your knee in. So let's try that again. Inhale, push down to lift up. Exhale, returning the hips to the floor as we hug the knee in. So we're starting to work a little bit more range of motion through the hip, starting to wake up that hip joint just a little bit more, but also starting to warm up through the back. It's all interconnected, so we want to wake it all up here. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. For each side, lengthening up, and then gently hug that knee in. One more time here. from here, let's separate our feet about mat's width apart, about shoulder width apart with your knees bent. Gently begin to windshield wiper your knees side to side. So this is a great dynamic stretch into that hip joint. Really helps us wake up deep into those hips. Now this time, as we drop our knees over to the right, can we just let them flop and hang out? So you should be starting to feel a really nice release into that left hip flexor. Just let yourself relax. Now, if you're like, wow, this is a super intense stretch, you can grab those handy dandy blocks and use them like a little shelf. So if it works better for you to have some blocks to prop your knee up on, absolutely feel free to use those props to make this stretch a little bit more accessible for you today. And we'll take just a few more big deep breaths here. As we're ready to do so, let's start by gently engaging the core. We're going to come back through center. I have to slide my blocks out of the way. And let's just start to windshield wiper those knees again. Just noticing here as we're windshield wipering the knees, where we're starting to feel this in our hips. Just paying attention to that sensation today. Gently dropping the knees, this time over to the left, and let yourself release. Remember, you can always use those blocks. Underneath this time it would be the right knee. And then just melt into place. So noticing if maybe there's some gripping that's happening. And if you happen to notice that resistance, that gripping, just breathe into it. And let yourself relax. And gently making your way back to center. From here, let's hug our knees in. Now, if it feels good for you and you want a little back massage here, we can start to rock the length of our spine forward and back. Now, if that doesn't really work for you, just go ahead and roll over onto one side. Use your hands to come up to seated, or we can rock and roll ourselves up to a seated position. And then we're gonna make our way onto all fours. So take a moment here to find your stability and balance on all fours. So your back is straight. We're going to engage that low belly. Shoulders are right over the crease line of the wrists, and the hips are going to be right over the knees. Now from here, let's do a little bit of cat-cow spinal waves. So we'll inhale, drop the belly, rotate your pelvis forward so you're lifting your tailbone, opening your chest forward. So imagine you're pulling your hands towards your knees and your knees towards your hands at the same time so that you can really lengthen and extend forward with the spine. Now we're going to exhale, tuck the tail, rounding the back. Inhale, lengthen, stretch, extending. Exhale, rounding your back. So you might be wondering why we're warming up our back if we're primarily working to stretch and lengthen our hip flexors today. Well, fun little fact about your psoas is that it starts at your lumbar vertebrae and then it attaches down to the top of your thigh bone. So it really connects the upper and lower half of your body. So we want to start to warm that up just a little bit so that we can really effectively work into that hip flexor. By a lot of people with low back pain also tend to have really tight hip flexors. So I'm just gonna kind of ease into it. Let's go ahead and do that one more time, rounding the back. And then coming back to center. So from here, I'm gonna take my right leg and give it a gigantic step forward. So if you need to, grab a hold of your right ankle and give it a little scoochy scooch forward. We wanna make sure though that our right knee is over the right ankle and that the entire sole of the right foot is down on the mat. So we just wanna be sure we're not shifting so far forward that we're overshooting the toes with the knee and lifting the heel. We wanna keep that safe alignment through that front knee. Now, if you want to, you can scoot your left knee back just a little bit. And feel free if you've got like a blanket or a towel nearby, if you want a little extra padding underneath that back knee, you can absolutely pad there. And we're gonna think about drawing the inner thighs towards one another as we draw the belly in. So we're lengthening back with the left foot, but at the same time, the heart center and the crown of the head are lengthening away. And you'll notice as soon as you start to think about that opposition, you get a little deeper stretch into that hip flexor. It's pretty cool, right? So from here, we can gently begin to walk our hands onto that right thigh. So I want you to snuggle that right foot down and into the floor as we draw the belly in, lengthening up. So just take a moment to release into that hip flexor stretch. And we can take that left arm and reach it up, up, up. So finding that stretch here, thinking downward with the leg, upward with the torso and arm, but that shoulder is gonna go with the leg today. Now from here, we can take our right hand onto our right hip, reaching that left arm up and over, but we're gonna bring this shoulder slightly forward, this shoulder slightly back. Breathe deeply here. Now gently unwinding yourself, taking our hands back down to the floor. So this is where I really like to have blocks, mostly because my hips and my hamstrings are a little bit tight. So I'm gonna take my blocks onto the floor on either side of my right leg so that I can bring the floor a little bit closer to me. Entirely up to you. Again, you can use books if that's what you've got handy today. So from here, we'll gently begin to exhale as we straighten the right leg and hinge at the hips. So I want you to fold from the hips so your tailbone lengthens back. Crown of the head is lengthening forward. So now we're giving ourselves a nice little hamstring stretch here. Lengthening it out. And now we're just going to use our breath to transition between that low lunge and this hamstring stretch. So we're going to inhale, shift forward. Exhale, lengthening back. Now it's totally fine if that right leg doesn't come all the way straight. We're just working towards that sensation in our hamstring today. Now from here, let's shift ourselves forward. You're going to take that block in your right hand if you're using your blocks. Swing it to the inside of your right leg and start to toe heel your right foot out slightly towards the edge of your mat. So, okay, if that hip is turning out a little bit, so maybe your toes are facing the upper right corner of your mat. We just want to be sure that the knee is tracking in the same direction as the second and third toes so that we're not rotating through that knee. So settling into our runner's stretch here, you can scooch back a little bit with that left leg if that's appropriate for you. But again, I want you to think about that opposition. Left leg back, heart center moving forward. Now we can choose to relax and stay here with the hands either on the floor or the blocks. Or should you prefer today, release down onto your forearms And just let yourself relax here. So settling in. So this posture is not only giving us really nice release and stretch into that left hip flexor, we're getting a lot of really nice compression into that right hip joint as well. So we're really working deep into that joint capsule of the right hip, releasing out deeply here. As we're ready to do so, let's walk ourselves up. You can shift your blocks off to the side, planting your hands. I'm going to tuck my back toes from here, pushing into the ground, stepping back to downward facing dog. So hinging at the hips, pressing the palms into the mat, letting my heels release in the general direction of the floor. Now, if you want to here, you can walk the dog, just kind of easing into it here. Now, if downward facing dog doesn't feel super awesome for you today, feel free to drop your knees to the floor, coming into child's pose. Let's take 2 more big deep breaths here just to reset. Turning the knees to the floor. You guessed it, we're going to do that whole series with the left leg forward. So let's step that left foot up. Hands on either side of the left foot. And again, you can choose to use blocks, or you can choose to have your hands on the floor. Pad underneath that right knee if that's what feels good for you today. Belly draws in. We're lengthening the rib cage away from the right toes. Left knee is in alignment over that left ankle. So just let yourself stretch here. Big, deep breaths. And from here, gently walking our hands up onto that left thigh. So we want to be sure, finding our balance too, that we're keeping that pelvis in its neutral position. So tailbone drops down, we're going to shift forward, belly draws in. So we just want to be sure we're not overarching our back here. And from here we can take this time that right arm and reach it up. So slide that right shoulder blade down the back. And notice if that changes how the stretch feels in the front of your hip. And then gently shifting over to the side. Nice and easy here. Just breathe deeply. Back to center. Let's take our hands back down, lengthening again here. We'll just start to shift back through the tailbone, straightening through that left leg. So get as long as you can through your spine, releasing into that hamstring. This part should feel really good for the back of your legs. And now we're just going to shift forward and back. This is some great mobility work for those hips. Again, if you're a runner, this is a really good series for you right here. And let's go ahead and do that one more time. Shifting back. Shifting forward, left hand comes to the inside. We can again start to toe heel that left foot out to the side, finding our runner's lunge. So your left hand is to the inside this time of your left leg, knees tracking over the second and third toe. And if you want to, again, you can scooch that right knee back a little bit to deepen your sensation. Hands choosing to stay either on the blocks, or we can come down and release deeper into the stretch. So I just want you to find the variation of this that feels the best for your hips today. There is no need to push past that point of sensation to a place that feels painful or really uncomfortable. I want you to find the edge of your stretch today so that we're finding that release, but we're not jumping over that edge into pain. Gently walking yourself back up. You can scoot your blocks off to the side, toe heel your foot in, tuck your back toes. Again, let's step back gently to our downward facing dog. And again, just moving around in whatever way feels super good for your body here in down dog. Let yourself relax. Turning your knees to the floor, we can gently shift ourselves back, sitting back into child's pose. Gently walk our hands in. Swing your legs around in front of you, finding a comfortable seated position on our mat. So shake out your arms, just let your hands flop in your lap. Shoulders relax, closing your eyes. And we'll take just a few big deep breaths here to seal off our practice. Gently blinking your eyes open. Let's inhale. We're going to reach those arms up. Exhaling, palms coming together, drawing the hands together at heart center. Light within me, honors and salutes the light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today for this hip flexor stretch. I hope that you enjoyed it. I will see you next time. Bye.